Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the Black Belt Folding Session. Yeah.
Good, because one thing I was going to talk about real quick, I work in low CI. I'm doing all my rebuilding at point 0.2 and for the initial start. I'm also looking at exposed, and I have my sheet bonds on for view options. That's for people who don't know what, the vets are going to know this, but most of you are, if you're new, you're not going to have an idea about it. Again, it's a repetition. I like to look at exposed. Usually, sometimes I have the side chains on, sometimes I don't. It's going to be pretty similar to what you've seen protein structure-wise, just maybe a little different approach. I didn't change these structures here at the on the left of my screen. I didn't bother changing those structures at all, but I did look at these and I said, okay, these two are probably going to be next to each other. There's a lot of hydrophobics there. So I go in and I'm looking at what I'm going to move. I end up moving this sheet or these segments over to here. I think I have that here. I call it sheet step 1 sheets aligned. If it'll load, you can see that I've aligned these sheets. And again, another thing that I don't worry about my score. You notice that all of us don't worry about the score. It goes negative. It goes way negative. I also use a different interface. I use a selection interface as opposed to the original interface, which I think Maddie and Tokens were working in. That's just, it's just preference, what you get used to working in. So I have this sheet. I use bands. I can see the sheets here. I band everything together. Red doesn't scare me at this point, but if I were way up at the top and had way it towards the end, I would be worried about the red. I'm going to take my next sheet. I rebuild my helices later. I'm going to take this sheet over here next on the right of the helices. I'm going to move it in, so I call that sheet 2 aligned. That comes in. You can see I've banded it. I can see that I have some nice strong hydrogen bonds here. I'm going to go to my sheet 3, which is going to be taking this one and aligning it. And boom, I've got all my sheets lined up. This is what I call a sheet wall. If you have sheets, I like to put them in walls. It's just something I do. I did that on, I think, 803 as well. The next thing I'm going to look at is rebuilding the big helix and what I'm going to do. When I'm rebuilding helices, I'm looking to see how, as best as I can, to line up the hydrophobics on one side, similar to what Tokens and Maddie have said too. So you can see I've got it rebuilt. It's not ideal. I have this side chain sticking out up here, but I've got most of them lined up on the bottom. So they're close. And I'm going to position this. When I position it, I see these big, this is a tyrosine, I think this one's a phenylalanine, I believe. I could be wrong, I can't remember. I'm going to look for a pocket that I can put them down in here in. It's not just pulling them down, but I'm kind of looking, where is there open space in here that I could kind of bury these two in down somewhere in here. And I've put that down here where I think I've repositioned that helix. And you can see it's still all red, but I'm going to have maybe some problem here, but when I shake it out and wiggle, it should work out. I do notice this tyrosine out here on the right of my screen may come back to bite me. It's an exposed sitting out here at the end. I have this big Herkin, probably a phenylalanine, I think, sitting out here at the end. These may come back to haunt me later on. Having exposed hydrophobes are not a good thing in a Denovo or in any puzzle. So you're trying to minimize that. So I connect mine. What I do is I just freeze my structures where I'm going to, somewhere where it's going to bend, and I just pull them together. I don't band them. I just pull them together. And I'm not worried about red for the structures, the clashing. I guess that's the clashing and all. So I'm not too worried about that. But when I reconnect it, it looks like this. I'm moving to that slide. You can see these are not ideal connections, but it's going to work out. For me, it's going to work out at the end when I rebuild with Timo's excellent rebuilding script. I really like that. So kudos to Timo for that one. Now I've got to figure out what the heck am I going to do with this, and what am I going to do with this. I chose not to bring this currently over the center of the protein. I just kind of I just kind of belt it in place as the helice, and just kind of let it work itself into place on that. And that's on the next slide here, or the next track. So it's just kind of hanging out there on the end. It's kind of worked its way somewhat into the middle. It's kind of worked its way out there. And this thing, I've turned it into a helice as well. This guy out here, it's only got one helice marked in here. So I just turned it into a helice. I call it the tag in. I rebuilt it, and I put it in as it just kind of. It's got that. This is not ideal here, but I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that. This is with this tyrosine hanging out here. It's not looking good. But I haven't done any rebuild yet. I haven't done really any shaking or anything. I've just been moving things around and connecting them, and then I'll connect everything together and I'll give it a shake and wiggle. That's the next one. And this is what I'm looking at. This is before I do my Timo rebuild, TVDL enhanced. I'm looking at my exposed. I'm going to get rid of that.
So GMN,
yeah, I want to get rid of I'm sorry.
You have your sheets banded.
Yeah.
Are you going to band or freeze anything to start wiggling?
I don't. I let it wiggle as is. I'm looking at I'm looking at the yellow orbs, or the yellow spheres. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like 11 exposed right now, and I know this is going to haunt me out here on this loop. I've got to figure out. I'm still in the process of trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that one. One thing I was thinking of doing, but because these two are in the middle, is making this you could move one of these sheets. I haven't done this yet, but I've thought about moving one of these sheets on the outside and having the helice extend over farther, and that might cover some more. I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about that, but I haven't done it. I've thought about it. I just haven't done it yet. It's just puts a little more space, might have a little more coverage on some of the exposed, although these will become exposed, but I don't know. We'll see what happens when I try that one. So now I'm at a point where I've got a lot of red. I've got some really ugly loops here. This is just not pretty at all. But I'm a script runner. Once I get the initial setup I like, I start running the scripts. And I have one where I use Timo's enhanced TVDL, and this is the screenshot after running it for, I don't know how long I ran it, but it works out. It's got a lot smoother stripe. You can see this is not bent the right way. I'm going to have to come back and fix that. But you can see that this is it's all initial. I like to work at 0.2 because I think it gives it a lot more flexibility. For me, that's just it's a preference.
Well,
whether it really does or not, I don't know. But
I would agree with you. That's what I work in too. Although I'm looking and realizing that you and I do some things differently.
Oh, okay. And that's pretty much the structure I would be working with now in I'd be doing further rebuild, and I'll slowly increase. That's kind of what I'm looking for. How can I get the structure to look stable and happy if I were to take the bands away? Actually, I'm paranoid. I don't take bands away. I just unenable them or disable them. And then if I were to shake and wiggle, it would probably it should be a stable structure now.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So you can see it's going. It is actually. You can see it wiggling around. It's actually fairly stable. It's actually really stable. I just got to figure out what I'm going to do with it now. So,
And
I don't
it's
know. I think that's it. Oh, you did want me to mention. It's kind of interesting. We were talking. I do have a degree in cellular molecular biology from the University of Washington, but I don't use. Maybe I use more than I think, but I don't think I use. I look at these as puzzles. It's not. I'm not taking into effect a lot of. What I've learned is exposed and all that is from working with other people, working with a team, as opposed to just really applying my science background to it.
well, there's no question this is the ultimate puzzle, isn't it? Which
Yeah,
is
they
why
are.
so many
Yeah,
of us have talked for so long.
yeah, that's what intrigues me is a puzzle aspect on this is what really does intrigue me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, and thank you so much.